Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another installment of our AgriDry webinar series videos. And today we are going to actually be talking about winter storage. Obviously, winter is here, whether we like it or not. We can't really control Mother Nature. So therefore, we're going to be talking about what we can do with our AgriDry products as far as getting them ready for the winter season. Okay? So why is it important? Well, simply it's for better quality of the grain, more efficiency, and also less hassle and mess come spring. So we're going to talk about the grain spreader aspect of it right now, and there's not a whole lot to go over, just some main common sense things. When you're done for the harvest season, most of you guys have probably already pretty much done filling the bins or moving grain. Maybe you might be moving some maybe this winter, maybe depending on what the case is. But make sure you clean the hoppers out and the leveling band after the harvest and filling your bin to eliminate mold buildup over time. So obviously you don't want any of that clogging in there, and that if you have any grain that's clogged up in there, you want to make sure it's all cleaned out. You don't want that sitting up there freezing and getting moisture up there, because then if you leave it up there come spring, it's just going to get all hard and crusty and moldy. And obviously these are some examples of different debris and stuff, or just different things that can get clogged up in there. And it just makes it easier to get that cleaned out now than wait and knock it all down when you're trying to empty or fill again for next year. So just simple stuff like that. Also, you want to check after you're done harvesting, after you've moved the grain through the spreader and whatnot, check the arms on the spreader, make sure that they're secured, and make sure they haven't moved, whatever the case may be. Make sure the eye bolts is attached to the top of the bin lid or which it sits on, whatever the case. Basically you want to make sure that's checked and it's secure. You can check the levelness of the spreader with using a level. And let me go back to this other picture here. Let me go back here one more screen. You can see right here on the arms, the arms here, you can actually put a level over that, and then also over right here too. You can check it, make sure it's level. So you want to just check those things and make sure, like I said, you don't have anything clogged in there. Make sure all the lids are tightly secured so you're not getting any snow, or melting off or runoff or whatever the case may be. So those are some things, main things that you want to check as far as the spreader goes. It's all cleaned out. You cleaned all the bees wings and stuff out of the tabs that you can reach. Sometimes if the bin is empty, there's not much you can do as far as the actual chute goes. But if the bin is full and you're storing the grain, you can go up there, from the top of the grain and actually clean off those little tabs inside the long chute that hangs on the spreader. Just some of those things you can clean out before the next following year, so that way when you are ready to move grain again, it's all ready to go. Moving on, for preparing your controller, the bullseye system, you want to make sure you take samples of the grain to determine where you are at with your grain to decide if you need to continue drying or just maintain. Again, it is not really recommended to stay in drying mode during winter. Some customers do. Obviously, with it being so cold out that you may not get very many good drying days, but you can leave it in there. But again, we don't recommend leaving it in drying mode during winter. Usually, if you're trying to dry and you're not really down to your desired target, we'll just have you put it in the storage mode and then pick up in the spring or summer where you left off. Again, that's just our recommendations. If you're maintaining grain, we're going to adjust the settings for a winter storage mode, and then that's kind of how we're going to show you here in the next few minutes here and going into that storage mode and making these changes. So here's the screenshot of most of your charts that you're going to see inside of our bullseye controllers. It has corn and soybean, and it just basically talks about the general settings where you need to be for drying and storage mode. So you can see here, this is the storage mode chart right here where my mouse cursor is at. Winter, spring, fall, and summer. These are the minimum air temperatures and maximum air temperatures. And you're going to see that they pretty much are all standard with corn and soybean as far as these charts. But the biggest thing about storage mode from drying mode is you want to make sure the most important thing is that your current and target is both set the same, plus and minus moisture. If you look over this chart, bear with me, you'll see it on a drying, it's a 0.5, and on storage mode, it's 2.0. By setting it there, you'll basically eliminate this EMC limit. EMC limit does not play a factor in storage mode, okay? So you'll want to make sure that you set these things accordingly for winter. And moving down, you'll make sure that the minimum target temperature, that would be in the temperature controls, that your grain target temperature, we recommend at 35, plus and minus 5, 20, and then the temp limit of 20. Hot spotting obviously is off, and let me explain just briefly here on the reason why we have hot spotting off. Hot spotting is off because obviously when the grain is down in the 30s and 40s or close to that, that's not really considered a hot spot, and we don't want the fans automatically coming on if it detects more than, say, 8 or 10 degrees difference within the grain when it's really not really a hot spot at all. So, you may have 8 to 10 different degrees difference in grain in storage mode. With drying mode and the hot spot enabled, then it's gonna actually, with that hot spotting enabled mode, it's gonna cause the fans to kick on. So we'll just make sure the hot spotting is off. And then if we look down here, we'll see the soybean chart, kind of similar, as far as getting the settings right. Current and target moisture is going to be the same, plus or minus also 2.0, and just kind of going right down through here, the minimum target 35, 5, and 20, make sure hot spotting is off, so on and so forth. As spring approaches, you can adjust the maximum air temperature by bumping it up to 60 instead of 40. And obviously your grain temperature will be 45 in spring, but mainly we're worried about winter right now, so this is what the charts show. Now the next slide is if you have rice, and this is just a generic rice chart that kind of shows the same thing, winter storage mode. And you'll see they all kind of basically line up to be about the same. You want to keep that grain nice and cool around that 35-degree range. And same thing with wheat. And then I'll just leave it here briefly so you can kind of look through and see that. And then also we have sorghum. And that's a generic, this is just a recommended charts for the different types of grain. Now, I understand there's a lot more different types of grain that you have. If you have some that we haven't kind of went over here, just please call in, and talk to one of our tech support guys, and we can get you some settings for that and kind of go over that. And I'm sure there's plenty of information on recommended storage temperatures and storage charts on the internet for that as well. All right, so we're going to go over them now. Like when you're at the bullseye controller, some of our customers may already have a newer program chip, and these are what we call the version 10 chips. If you've bought a new system in the past month or so, you'll probably see a screen that looks like this on the actual bullseye. So I just kind of want to go briefly over here, kind of to show you how you would set these with the bullseye system. So obviously in this first picture here, the first screen, you see a system clock, and it'll say open, sensor setup, relay setup, G-bin wizard. This is if you're to take that data selector and keep scrolling. This is what you would see down here underneath the G-bin wizard. You would see grain setup. You would see moisture controls. You would see temp controls. And then below that, you would also, if we were to keep going here, you would see below the temp controls, you would see hotspot controls, status and times, which status and times are where you're going to go to view all of your run times and your status of the actual bin. Next, below that, you would see a sensor and calcs. And there's where you could go and deselect each sensor in the bin. And then you have grain temps at the bottom of this main menu screen. So what you would do, obviously, is you would go into your, you could use the grain bin wizard setup, that G-bin wizard, okay? And what you would do is you would scroll, and at that bottom screen you see here it says open. So you would press and release that data selector where it says open, which would take it to a minus close. You'll see this screen shows it says minus close. So that means you're actually in that menu there. So then you would go through, just go through the basic questions, you know, grain type, what kind of grain do you have in there? There's, with the new chip, there's an option for a lot of different types of grain. So you select which grain you're using, and then the control mode, store, for storage. And store season is you would obviously change that to winter, okay? And you would also go down there, and it's going to ask you for your moisture target, you know, as you're scrolling down in this menu, what you can't see on the screen, but also if you kept scrolling down, it would have moisture target, and you would put in what your target moisture would be that you want for that. Basically, you would put in whatever that grain moisture is, because we're storing it, remember, so it's not going to dry it or moisturize it, it's just going to maintain. So you put your moisture in there. Hot spotting obviously is going to be off, and then how many grain sensors you would have. So typically, if you have one cable, there would be 6. If you have 2 cables, it would be 12, because usually there's 6 sensors per cable. Okay? So once you went through that, you would go back up here to close this, okay? Once you went through all those settings, and as you click that with a data selector, you'll see this screen right here. It'll say review settings, accept settings, and cancel settings. So you could click the review if you wanted to, just to make sure you have everything set accordingly. And then make sure when you go to accept the settings down here, with that, you can see where this arrow is. When you click the accept settings, it'll say settings accepted, and then you can also then you'll know that it's been set in storage mode. Also, if you wanted to go through just manually and do it, you could do it manually without the grain bin wizard. And there's where this menu is. You'll see the grain setup. You'd open that grain setup menu, go through the grain type corn, grain sensor 6, minimum error. You'd set for your 30, your maximum error. If you'd scroll down one more, you'd see maximum error, and that would be 40. And then that would be all that menu shows. The next menu you would go to adjust in storage mode would be the moisture controls. So this is where you would make sure you open that up, and you would see the enable GM controls on, so they would have to be on. Moisture value, make sure that moisture and target is basically set the same. It may not actually be at 15.0, but whatever your moisture is at that time, you're going to set it at the same, and then go from there. Now, below this screen up top here, below this screen menu, if you were to keep scrolling, you would see moisture plus and minus, and then you would see moisture limit, which obviously the moisture limit is not played in storage mode. The use CEMC value, and then the fan warming. Fan warming is if you have a heaters or if you have like that, and that you would want to check your fan manual for the fan warming and what that would be and how many that would be. So The fan warming feature is also on there. But again, a lot of that stuff is not going to really play much in storage mode, okay? So once you close out of the moisture controls menu, the next one you would see is temperature controls. And this one, you would want to make sure that your target temperature is 35, plus and minus is also 5. And then the temp limit would be 1 below this temp plus and minus, and that would also be 20. Temp limit would be 20. Okay? So what we want to do right now is I want to actually go in and kind of show you also on the AgriDry Link side. A lot of you guys and customers may already have wireless communication with this Bullseye system. So what I want to do is just briefly go in here and show you. If you're not sure, now this is one of our accounts that we have, customers that we have. If you're going from our home site, you can log into our home site, and there's a shortcut for the AgriLink login. Most of you probably already have it bookmarked, so you can just open up your web browser and log in. So you're going to see device status, and then we're looking at a bin here. And so if you're wanting to go in, you see right now it's in a drying mode. So what we want to do is, if we're going to simply put this into a storage mode, I'll just kind of briefly show you here. You go in device settings, and then you would simply go off of that chart that you have on the, if it's corn or whatever you have, you'd go off of that chart. So obviously the you can see here is minimum air temperature is 32. We could set that at 30, and then go down to the next one, maximum air temperature, we would do 40. And then he only has one fan on this, so that would be good. Fan delay doesn't matter with only one fan, because that's fan delay is how many seconds each fan's going to kick on after the first one kicks on. So the fan lockout, 30, set at that. Customers only have one cable in here, so you have 6 sensors, so that's set the same. And then down here is what you'll make sure this is checked first of all, and then you'll also go to your current moisture. We're gonna set that at let's just say 14, because the target's 14. Let's just both set it at 14. If for some reason it's not at that 14, let's say it's at 17 or whatever the case may be, you would put the current and target the same is what we're trying to get at. That moisture differential 2.0, and then your moisture limit does not play a factor in, so you won't have to worry about that. And then your enabled grain temperature controls, that's going to be changed to 35. Temperature difference of 5, that's that plus and minus that we're talking about, and then the temp limit of 20. Okay, you'll see the hot spots are not enabled, and he does not have any exhaust. This would be if you had exhaust fan controls, so you don't have to worry about that as well, because he doesn't have any roof exhausters. Just has regular natural vents. So you just go through and verify that these are set. Your current target same. Moisture difference 2.0. Moisture limit, obviously the EMC limit does not play a factor again. So these look good. So then simply all you would do is save and apply. So you click save and apply, wait for the settings to take place. And again, this is you just have to wait a few minutes for it to save and take place. And then your settings will be changed accordingly. And then you will see that if you go back into your device status, it'll go back to and say a storage mode instead of that drying mode. Okay? So you see a message here, changes were sent to the bin successfully. You look now, and everything has been changed. So you are in storage mode. If you go back to your device status, your storage mode says, your operating mode, says storage. Okay? And so basically this is just going to run periodically just to get the grain temperature cooled down, which if you see right now, this particular bin is already at, the average grain temperature is already at 35, so it's pretty ideal. It's not going to be running very much. You'll see that the fan status is off. It's not calling for anything right now. It's just you know, storing it till he's ready to move it and sell the grain. Okay? So with that, that is basically all that I have for this this webinar series. I just wanted to briefly go through and just kind of show you a little bit about what you would want to make and changes wise as far as storage mode. Okay, so I'm actually going to open it up to questions at this time if you have any, and then if they're hearing none, then we will go ahead and dismiss for this webinar. So just 1 minute, I will open the lines up for questions. Does anybody have any questions before we dismiss here?
Not from us.
Okay. All right. Well, if nothing else, then I do appreciate for everybody tuning in and watching. Again, if you have any questions, you can call this number on the screen, 419-459-4399. Also visit our website, AgriDryLLC.com, where we have a lot of tutorial videos on that website where I showed you. Scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a videos link, and a lot of these videos that we just put on that we're doing the webinar series will be on our website. So if at any time you have any questions or say, gosh, I remember that I was going to ask that question and I never said anything, but I got a question now, maybe I've already answered it in this video. So you can take a look there as well. So with that, I do appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you guys next year. If I don't hear from any of you guys calling in, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and hope everybody has a safe holiday season, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You too.
Yep.